Have you ever wondered if it was possible to be consistent in your music business without leading to burnout? Listen, I know everyone's been given the advice a billion times. You got to be consistent. You got to be consistent. Hell, I've given that same advice because it's good advice, but there's a catch to it. There's a lot of misunderstanding because while consistency is a good thing, what if misunderstanding what consistency really looks like is just a guarantee that the only thing that will be consistent in your music business is that you'll be consistently burnt out, right? So the real question is not how do we become more consistent? Because ultimately, I think people think they know what consistency means and they're like, it's like doing the same thing every single day, right? Well, what they end up really describing is discipline. Yeah, discipline is when you have the mental fortitude to force yourself to do the same things every single day, regardless of how you feel about it. But that's not what consistency is. And in this video, I'm actually going to break down how you can have consistency in your music business without it having to lead to burnout, because that has been the pattern for most musicians out there, whether it's musicians I talk to out at a gig or who are my clients, or it doesn't matter. This is a huge problem. And in this video, we're going to dive deep and actually solve it. So get locked in, because now we're going to go deeper on consistency turning into progress and not burnout. So the first thing we need to understand is there's a huge paradox here, right? And that paradox is that most people's consistency leads to burnout, right? Because if they're doing the same, it's the very fact that they're doing this thing every day that's leading them to this like, oh, God, I just don't want to do this anymore, man. That's what's leading to the burnout. Well, what's the difference maker between the people who do things every single day and are enjoying it and it's helpful versus people that just keep getting burnt out? Well, here's the thing. You have to optimize for repeatability, not just the task itself. See, a lot of times we'll say things like this. Okay, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to block the next hour to shoot content. Okay, well, first of all, I don't think you should be planning 1 hour ahead. I think you should be planning days, if not a week ahead, so that you know what your schedule is going to be ahead of time. But we'll get into that a little bit more. The huge thing, though, is we look at the task. I'm going to create some content from 2 to 3, right? Whatever it happens to be. That rhymed. No, but you look at that and you think, I'm just going to go, okay, what's going to happen? 2 o'clock's going to roll around. I'm going to just do what? Make some content. You see how vague that is? You see how that's not really specific? Make content. That's about as specific as I'm going to go make music. Making music is not just like, oh, look at this magic fairy dust and music. No, I have to open up the DAW, I have to create the workflow, I have to get all the stuff wired in and plugged in, and then I got to get it tuned up, and then, you see what I'm saying? It's a process. And we don't typically think in that granular of detail. We typically think big picture. I'm going to take the next hour, I'm going to take 2 to 3 o'clock every single day to be my content hour. Well, unless you know what that looks like, here's what's most likely has happened to you in the past or will happen to you if you try this. If you don't specify what actually happens in that, you're probably going to show up and go, okay, it's content time. Got to think of some content. What's some good content? I could do this. Oh, yeah, I could do this. No, but I could do this. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go surf on TikTok. I'm going to go surf on YouTube Shorts. I'm going to find a good piece of content, inspiration, maybe something that's proven and is going to work. Okay, I'm going to go scroll down that. And by the time it comes around to actually shooting the idea that you finally discovered, you've got 10 minutes left. And now you're feeling rushed because now you got to finish this all in 10. You see how that's not a very productive way to go about creating your content. And if you do that every single day, oh gosh, you're going to get burnt out so fast. You're going to get burnt out so fast. And that's what most people are doing. So the paradox here is that consistency is not just doing things over and over and over and over and over again, right? It's having a set of tasks that comprise the activity, make content, or write an email to my email list, or create an offer to sell to my fan base, or whatever it happens to be. That stuff is broken up. So what you can do is plan, okay, before 2 o'clock, I'm going to take 30 minutes to do some research, right? So now it's 1:30 to 2 is you planning the content. Then by 2 o'clock, you found the piece of content you're going to shoot. And now when 2 o'clock runs around, you hit the ground running, shooting the content, right? You see how that's a little bit more effective? See how you're taking up a little bit of extra time, but you're not letting it crunch into this like pre-designated window that you didn't know that you were going to be doing that ahead of time. And then you because here's the thing, when you know you're going to do something, it allows you to brace for it a little bit, right? Whereas if it's just kind of thrown on you, you're in the middle of like, okay, Dax said to go make some content, so it's 2 o'clock, it's time to make some content. And then you have to deal with all the stresses of figuring that stuff out, and you didn't know about it until then. That's way more anxiety, way more mental load than if you just planned ahead of time. Okay, I know the first 30 minutes are going to be research, basically. Here's an even better idea. Do the research like late at night some other time, right? And then just get a bank of ideas, and then 2 to 3 every day is you just pick an idea and you go for that. Right? That's a little bit more effective in my opinion. That's another bonus little way of approaching this. But hopefully you guys are starting to see the problem with what most people are doing. They're just going like, yeah, I'll go write an email to my fan base tomorrow. An email about what? Do you need to prepare any kind of links or assets or anything that you're going to put into the email? Like, do you know what that looks like? We can't think in these vague general terms when we're trying to be consistent in our music business, okay? So you have to be very specific. You're going to outline, sure, this time to this time every day I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. But you also have to understand this. This is kind of a double-edged sword, because this is, again, like another paradox of like, there's no way to avoid burnout if burnout to you just means difficult, okay? Because that will never go away. That will never disappear. There will never be a time when things don't get difficult at some point. I'm telling you right now, when I decided to start filming 2 YouTube videos a week for an entire year, I actually recently just crossed an entire year of doing that consistently, I found way more results, by the way, just in the past year than I had any of the previous years when I was inconsistent with my releases. Or I went to, remember, I didn't optimize for repeatability. I optimized for the task and the idea of the task itself. So I tried to like do super batches where I would record 5 videos at a time. And then I would release those 5 videos once a day. And then take Saturday and Sunday, record 5 videos, do the same thing. And that I was only able to do that for a few months before I was just like, oh gosh, I'm just getting burnt out. But when I was like, okay, what's a good amount of videos per week? What's something that one of my mentors has been doing? Okay, 2 videos a week. Let me just model that, okay? Did that, and that's when I started to figure out something that worked for me. But I'll tell you right now, it was difficult. All right, at a certain point, I'm like, okay, what's today's video going to be about? What are we going to talk about? And I have to think about these things, and I had to do that on a consistent basis. And of course, the thoughts come to my head of like, are you ever going to run out of things to say? And over 500,000 words later, I'm still yapping, y'all. I still have things to talk about. It's crazy. But you get the idea. It took me a minute. It was difficult, but that difficulty led to the growth that I wouldn't have seen otherwise. So I need you to think about this the same way in your music business and being consistent within it, is that when you're consistent with something, when you're doing it even the right way, where you're optimizing for repeatability, you're being very systematic about it, right? You're putting it in the right spots and all that kind of stuff so that your day is very organized. Even then, it's going to be a little bit painful. So I would be a liar if I told you guys, oh yeah, you just do this and it'll never be painful ever in your life and it's going to be perfect. That's not what's going to happen. But I don't want you to conflate things being difficult with, man, I'm feeling burnt out. Sometimes the mental load that you're feeling there of being burnt out is just because you're running into a difficult problem. Not that you yourself have been burnt into the ground, because that term burnout has a very specific emotional weight to it. And sometimes we can conflate the pain of growth with the pain of movement. Okay, for example, if I just sit here and I just kind of like, I kind of push my arms, like I do like these mini punches, right? Like in Taekwondo and stuff, we used to do like punches and all that kind of stuff. I haven't been in Taekwondo in years, so don't expect anything to be accurate, whatever I do. And go like, that's Taekwondo. It's like, no, that's Dax Kwando, and it's not very good. It's not very effective. I wouldn't recommend it. No one teaches it for a reason. So what would happen if I went like this for like every waking hour for 3 days? Okay. Now here's what would happen. I would feel some pain, okay? But I would feel pain probably in my elbow, probably in my shoulder. And yeah, I'd probably feel some like bicep pain, like, when you work out and stuff. But that wouldn't be the majority of the pain I'd be feeling. The majority of the pain I'd be feeling is my worn down elbows from bending and turning and twisting, and doing this whole motion over and over again. My shoulder and my rotator cuff, that would probably be all messed up, right? but I wouldn't have really grown much as far as like muscle and strength, right? It wouldn't have helped me very much. Same thing as like if I just like bend my knees over and over again. Just bend my knees over and over and over again. It's like if I do these little mini squats, it's like, sure, if I do 1,000 of these, I might see some growth in my quads. But really what's going to happen is my knees are going to be pressed on over and over again. I'm 6'2", 200 pounds. So my knees are getting constant weight pushed on them. When the risk reward, that's happening here is like, okay, I get to take on this 200 pound of weight for a second to go up half a step. Like, oh, okay, I'm not really getting much growth in the quads for that. Hopefully you get the analogy here, which is that I can be moving, I can be consistently doing something over a long duration of time, but if it's not actually serving me, it's just going to burn me into the ground, right? Like that's the pain of movement, is just sitting there moving, but you're not moving forward. You're just moving in place, right? And most of y'all are out there in the music business with busted knees, right? In this example, you're the guy in Mr. Deeds who can grab his kneecap and then like pull it like he's an elastic man. Like that's most musicians out there, is they're doing things over and over again every single day, but really what's happening is they're just trashing their knees, metaphorically speaking. When really the pain of growth, which is like the pain of when you've got, dumbbells and stuff and you're sitting there you're lifting them and whatever. And these dumbbells are there to help exert force on specific muscle groups, right? That help those muscle groups grow over time, right? So the pain of growth, you ever had a really good workout where maybe you ran a bunch and you woke up the next day and you're like, my legs, I can't walk. Or, you lifted a whole bunch of weights and now your biceps and triceps are sore and so you got spaghetti arms for the next couple of days. Well, that pain is still pain, but it's good pain. It's the pain that you're moving forward, right? But that's not what most people are doing when they're being consistent. What they're doing is sitting there bending their knees over and over and over again and just trashing their knees while thinking, I'm moving, I'm doing things. And people are like, but you're not actually like, we're not getting the pain of growth, right? So don't conflate the two. Don't be like, oh no, this is difficult, I'm burnt out. It's like, no, it's just difficult, all right? Because being uncomfortable doesn't mean being inauthentic. Not always, at least, right? Sure, like if you're a very prim, proper, conservative woman and then someone's like, yeah, show a bunch of skin, like, sure, if that uncomfortability is us being authentic, like, stop that, you're rude, what are you doing? But it's like, oh, I'm an artist and I need to start posting content. Oh, I feel weird posting content. That's because I'm an imposter. No, you're just learning how to do something. Be easy on yourself. Give yourself some grace. When you learned how to sing or learned how to play an instrument, most of y'all you weren't savants. You weren't that like 4-year-old baby who's like, oh, what's this called? Piano? Just start breaking out into Bach. No, you chopsticked it up until you figured out what the hell was going on. And then eventually you grew and you had the pain of growth where you tried to do chopsticks and you went, din, 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 din. Oh, dang it. Din, 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 din. You're like, oh no, this is so hard, right? That was painful, but you pushed through it, didn't you? Why? Well, I thought, if it's uncomfortable, that means you're being inauthentic. No, you were still a musician before you mastered your instrument, because mentally you made the decision that you were a musician. And it didn't matter that you weren't as skilled as you wanted to be when you first started. That didn't matter. You were still being authentically you, even if it was uncomfortable, right? And in the same breath in your music business, as you go out there and you learn new things and you're trying your marketing, you're trying to sell stuff for the first time. At first, it's the pain you get when you work out. You get up and you're like, dude, my biceps are sore. That's tough. I don't like that. People that don't work out very often are like, I don't like that. That's the pain. I'm not sure. People that work out relatively often, we're like, it's a good pain. You come to love it after a while. And that's true in business too. Like the uncomfort that most people shy away from, you start to see the growth in it. So you lean into the pain, and therefore, music business speaking wise, you get more jacked than they do. Everyone else is like, I'm afraid to lift the weights because it's heavy and it hurts my arms. Holding up the content, holding up the camera for the content hurts my arms. That's basically the equivalent of it, right? So being uncomfortable is not the same as being inauthentic, right? Always remember that. So when you're going out there, don't conflate, oh, I'm being consistent. Oh, this is difficult. That's not what burnout is. Consistency is when you're You're like that character in every video game that you've ever seen where like an NPC gets stuck in a wall and they're just kind of going like this and they can't turn. Like that sucks. Don't do that. And I would avoid doing that. And if you are feeling burnt out from that, that's the reason you're feeling burnt out, because you're just, I'm trying to, someone's like, hit S, and you're like, what? That's what it's like. So the last thing I want to tell you guys today to help kind of, now that you understand this, you understand what consistency really is, kind of the mindset principles behind it, what do you do? So first things first, your calendar, your Google Calendar, your Apple Calendar, whatever calendar software you got, that is going to become your new dictator. Welcome to the country of you, where you're not even the dictator. See, that's what being a musician's like. No, I'm just kidding. No, but you have a new dictator, and it's your calendar. But here's the cool thing about this dictator. You get to tell them how to dictate you. Kind of interesting, right? You're like, I like this relationship, especially, because it's just within the confines of me and my calendar. So my calendar says, listen, whatever I put in here, I don't care if you're in the middle of something. You're going to stop doing whatever it is you're doing and do the next thing that I've got listed on this calendar. But the cool thing is you get to decide what that is. It's like, oh, okay. So you're basically going to help keep me accountable, Mr. or Mrs. Dictator Calendar. Yes, I am. And my name's Google or whatever. So you have to go into your calendar and you have to plan meticulously, right? That's a fun word, meticulously. You have to plan every aspect of what you need to accomplish on either a daily or weekly basis inside of your music business. So let's go over a couple of things that you need to cover, right? What are some bases that are actually going to help you move forward as opposed to being this person, right? So the things that you can cover, first and foremost, is content. We all kind of know that, right? So I gave you some strategies of sort of how to approach your content. I would give you some guardrails. Create content that is easy to edit. I know this is like, so many people overthink content. I've seen, like for example, musicians who have spent hours and hours and hours, I saw this one female artist who had put hours into her content and it looked really high quality and all this kind of stuff. And in total, she got 6,000 views, which beats a poke in the eye. But she's like, how am I supposed to build a business off this? What, it's not turning into streams. And we have videos about how to actually make things turn into streams. But I felt for her, because she put a lot of effort and energy into the content. Clearly. But the focus of the content was to make her look good, not to connect with an audience, right? So sometimes the content that requires the most editing because there's an ego thing in there in our brains that's like, it's got to look cool because we got to look cool, right? Now, I do agree that you got to kind of look cool. You got to look recognizable and distinguishable as an artist. We've talked about that with your branding, right? You need to be pretty distinguishable and they can pick you out of a crowd. But man, you've got to make sure that when you're planning this, that you're being, I kind of lost my train of thought a little bit there, sorry guys. But you have to be meticulous about it and plan on every aspect of it so that when you're going through this, you know exactly how to cover it. So in your content, connect with people as opposed to yourself. That was kind of the main point, but it was a tangential point anyway. Connect with people. So create content that's easily editable. So don't create stuff that's like you got to sit there and color grade it for 2 hours and then you got to take a break and then you got to go into CapCut and edit it for another 3 hours. Like, please, that's too much. See, that's the thing. You can't do that every day and not eventually get burnt out. However, if you create pieces of content where you just hold the phone up and you talk into the camera, or you set the camera up and you play a little guitar diddly in front of it, or you do whatever, like that's easy to, okay, I can capture it. Here's the thing, music, whatever, boom. I mean, I literally saw this. I thought this was actually a great idea. I've seen musicians do this, but the most recent version of this marketing I saw was with a cookie company, where it's literally just a dude walking around with a tote of cookies. Goes up to someone and goes, hey, sir, do you like chocolate chip cookies? Yeah, I love chocolate chip cookies. I have a challenge. Like, I want to give you this cookie for free, and all I want is your opinion on it. And he's filming it from like one of those meta glasses, I believe, or maybe he's got like a strap on the chest type of rig. But either way, he's recording this, and the guy's like, this might be one of the best cookies I've ever had. Like, the chocolate is amazing, the dough is amazing. What are they doing? How hard is that content to edit? It's a cool piece of content, but how hard is it to really edit? Right? You could do it DIY and just walk around with your phone on your chest, or kind of like this if you wanted to, right? And walk around, hey, do you like rock music? Hey, you like pop music? You like country music? You like jazz music? Whatever your genres. You like EDM? And if someone's like, kind of. And then, you get their opinion right there, right? Doesn't even have to show your face, just shows them, right? And maybe you ask them, hey, I'm going to post this on YouTube. Is that cool? Most people will be like, yeah, it's totally fine. I don't care. They're going to be happy that they got featured in a TikTok. They're going to be stoked about it. And even if not, there's easy ways to blur people's faces out if they really don't want to be seen. So just, that's a little side note. That's a fun little piece of content that I saw the other day. And I was like, that's such an easy piece of content to create. He literally just like, boop, walk around, got cookies. Hey, you want some cookies? You want to try cookies? Tell me what you think about them. And he just stands there and talks about the product with them as they're eating it and stuff. And so that's getting recorded, obviously. So it's like such an easy thing. So I just thought, for example, I'd share with you, how could you do that as a musician? Put one of those things on or just walk around with your phone in your hand. It doesn't matter. Or have a friend walk around with you and film you coming up to people and be like, if you like my music, I'll give you this for free. But if you don't like my music, I'll, donate something to charity or something, right? And you give them some kind of, okay, a challenge. I'll listen to your music and see what I think about it, blah, 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 blah. They listen to it, they like it, they get a cool free thing or whatever, right? By the way, don't give them a free thing for saying no. Just talking a little bit of behavioral engineering there, I guess. But hey, for your content, put the odds in your favor, stack the deck in your favor. Don't make the no option like, yeah, if you say yes, I'm gonna give you a free t-shirt. And if you say no, I'll give you $50 to Olive Garden. They're like, I'm just gonna say no because I want to go to Olive Garden tonight, dude. I want some breadsticks. Like, don't do that. So just saying. You don't have to make it super obvious that you want them to say yes. Like, if you say yes, I'll give you $1 million. And if you say no, I'll kick you in the shin. Well, what do you like in my song? Don't do that, but you get the idea. Make it kind of in the middle so that they could choose either one and it would be a good choice no matter what, and then have them get their opinion. So again, I'm going sort of down a rabbit hole of one piece of content, but it's about going out there and immediately trying to find a way to get the music to connect with people. And so sometimes you're actually literally going into the streets and finding people, but other times you're creating content towards that function, okay? So when you go to create it, don't spend 8, 12 hours on one piece of content. It's just not worth it. I had another client who spent around 8 hours on a piece of content and it just didn't do very well for him. And I hate seeing that because it's just a truism. So make content that's easily editable, all right? Now, in other regards to planning meticulously, plan in such a way that doesn't cause burnout. So if you need breaks between activities, plan your breaks. Plan those suckers out. There's something called the Pomodoro method. Some of y'all may be super ADHD, high in openness, that's a big 5 personality trait, type musicians, right? If that's you and you don't do well sitting down for long periods of time doing one thing, the Pomodoro method is great. You can break this up into different chunks. The beginner stage of this is doing 25 minutes of focused activity on one specific thing. So creating the content, writing an email to your to your fan base on your email list, or texting on your SMS list, whatever it is, right? Working on your music, work on it for 25 minutes straight, and then for 5 minutes, time this out, use your phone timer or a kitchen timer, it doesn't matter. Then go, do a little break, grab a drink of water, maybe watch some TikTok, hang out for 5 minutes. Once that timer goes off, jump right back into that sucker. So if you're doing an hour-long activity, you basically get 2 bursts, right? You get a 25-minute burst of work, 5 minutes of off, that's 30 minutes. Then you do that again, boom, you've got a whole hour that you've been dedicating on this one thing. Really, you've worked 50 minutes on it and taken 10 minutes and chilled. So some of y'all may want to just bulk that. Some of y'all may want to go 55 minutes straight on an activity and then take, or I'm sorry, not 55, 50 minutes on an activity and then take 10 minutes at the end to rest before the next hour. Maybe that's your method of approach, and therefore you can stack hour of activity on another hour of activity because you're breaking it up in this sort of extended Pomodoro method. So hopefully you guys have gotten a lot of value in understanding what consistency actually looks like, things that you can actually implement into your music business, and what those systems look like. And those are some, kind of almost personal development like systems, like you're having your calendar and putting things at certain times of the day where it's like, if you're not going to be likely to want to do content at 9 o'clock at night, don't schedule your content session for 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night. Schedule it for when you're confident you could actually achieve and execute the task, right? So maybe that's 2 or 12 in the afternoon, right? Okay, if that's when you're most energized to create the content, schedule it for that every day. and if you do better with like computer work stuff in the morning or at night, plan it accordingly, right? Some of y'all do both. I'm on my computer pretty much all the time because I run a business. So I understand what that's like too. So hopefully you guys understand that those are like personal development systems almost to help you, okay, now I know how to aim, right? Because that's one thing that no one talks about, and that's why I kind of wanted to make this video, is it's good to talk about the nitty-gritty music business strategies and concepts. There's tons of videos like that on this channel, but it's also really good to give you guys the frameworks of how to view these things. Because if you view them the wrong way, you'll consistently lead to burnout as opposed to consistently leading to growth, incremental by incremental growth, right? So if you got some value from this video, hit the subscribe button, all that good YouTube-y stuff. But if you want to learn how to implement these systems in person with me, I have an event that I'm hosting in Norman, Oklahoma, the home of Oklahoma University, Boomer Sooner. We're going to be hosting a 3-day workshop. It's going to be a whole weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, August 1st through the 3rd. And we're going to be breaking down not just systems like I've been talking about today, but mostly we're going to be talking about systems of marketing, systems of sales, how to set up basically the flow that you take fans through whenever it's like, oh, I just found out about this cool band. Oh, they've got pretty cool content. Yeah, I'll join the email list. Yeah, I'll buy something. How do we drive them as quickly as possible through that process? And that's what we're going to be covering in that entire weekend. So if you're interested, get those tickets. The link is in the description. You guys are going to have an awesome time at this. I'm super excited. I know a few of you have already gotten your tickets. So if you have gotten your tickets already, drop a comment. Let the people know. Let them know that you're coming, because this is going to be a great weekend of musicians learning how to actually improve their music business, and I'm happy to be a part of it. And so I basically priced it so we just break even on the room. So I'm not even really trying to make a whole bunch of money from this. I'm just trying to change the culture of what it means to be a professional musician. So I hope that you guys can make it out to that. So if you can, go ahead, click the link in the description now for that. Otherwise, I will see you on another video inside of Musicians Ignite. Take care.